Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use continues. I've got Eldon Stahl with me. He's the field director for the John Birch Society. Doing a great job. JBS.org, thenewamerican.com. Welcome back, Eldon.
Thank you, Sam. It's great to be here.
What do you think? Gold, $4,700. Silver, $94.
I should have stocked up on my silver.
When I was a little kid, I bought my first piece of silver for $4.25, by the way.
Oh, wow. I remember it was about $7 or $8. I used my paper route money for it. Nowadays, you have to deliver a lot of papers to get some silver, but you still can, I suppose.
Amen to that, ladies and gentlemen. It just shows, as Pete Sepp wisely pointed out, it just shows, Eldon, the lack of confidence in the dollar and in the United States and the moves being made now. So, the way we turn it around is we cut spending big time, and we show that America's on stable footing as we decrease spending. That's the only way, in my mind, to kind of bring back stability.
Yeah, we have to. It really does point towards the dollar being, it's a fiat currency. It's been totally disconnected from any precious metal at all since the 70s. But of course, before that, in the 30s with Roosevelt, when he got us off that, and it's just been, we have to have some sort of precious metal backing, which would be gold and silver. I have to go back to that, and that would be an adjustment, but it would provide a great amount of stability.
All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're ready for our guest, ladies and gentlemen. His name is Clarence Carter. And Clarence Carter is a nationally recognized human services expert. He's an executive with over 3 decades of leadership, ladies and gentlemen. He currently serves as commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Human Services. He was appointed by Governor Bill Lee, ladies and gentlemen. Over his 33-year career, he has served in the administrations of 2 presidents, 4 governors, and a mayor in various capacities, including commissioner of the Virginia Department of Social Services. He's been involved in the Department of the Arizona Economic Security. When he's done everything, folks, in social services. He ran food stamp programs and more. Clarence Carter, welcome to Liberty RoundTable Live, sir.
Sam, it's a pleasure to be here with you, you and your audience this morning.
So give me an idea of your career then, because a career like this, most people, you never hear about these guys behind the scenes. They're working. They can either do real harm, like what's happening in Minnesota, or they can do real good, like some of the things you've done.
So Sam, I have, as you stated there from the bio, I've had the blessing and good fortune of having an entire career, 34 years, in the administration of public human services or safety net programs and agencies. And in that time, I have touched either directly or tangentially pretty much every public safety net program, and have had the opportunity to really understand the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the system that the federal government alone, we spend about $1.49 trillion annually.
Now, you've been appointed by Bill Lee since 2021, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir. And in addition, served in the first Trump administration, also served in the Bush 43 administration, served in the administration of Governor Jan Brewer in Arizona, served in the administration of George Allen when he was governor in Virginia, and then also his successor, Jim Gilmore, and then also served in the administration of Mayor Adrian Fenty in D.C. government.
Earlier, as commissioner of the Virginia Department of Social Services, ladies and gentlemen, he implemented welfare reform. This is awesome. That moved tens of thousands of people from assistance to employment. Tell me how you got that done. That's huge.
So it was part of Governor George Allen's policy priority to reform Virginia's welfare system. And the idea was to move it from an open-ended entitlement to attaching work for receipt of benefits. And it was entitled the Virginia Initiative for Employment, Not Welfare. And in that initiative, we were able to, again, move thousands of folks who had been on the public assistance rolls to employment. And Sam, for me, the story that stands out, a year and a few months after implementation, I asked my team to set up a series of visits for me. I wanted to meet with individuals that had been impacted by the initiative, and so one of the individuals I met, her name was Barbara, and I said, Barbara, I want to know, a year and a half into this, how has this impacted you? And I said, do me a favor, please give me, your unvarnished opinion of this, and please don't be intimidated at all by the fact that, I'm the commissioner of the agency. I want to know the real truth. And she said, Mr. Carter, I have to tell you that when my caseworker told me that I was going to have to go to work to get my welfare benefits, I was frightened to death. I had not been employed in 14 years since I had my first child. And the idea that I was going to have to work, it just really frightened me. And so my first thought was, maybe I can move to a county that I won't have to work because the employment rate is so high. That was a built-in factor into the policy construct. If the unemployment rate was a certain rate, then the individuals there on the welfare system were not going to have to go to work. He said, but I dragged my feet and I was really depressed, and I never got that done. And the day came when my caseworker said, okay, Barbara, now it's time. We've got to find a job. He said, well, she helped me find a job at a local convenience store, and they helped me with child care, so my children were taken care of, and also with transportation. They helped me fix my old beat-up car, and so I went to work. And she said, do you know what I did with my first paycheck? And I said, no, Barbara, I don't. She said, I took my children out for pizza. And she broke down and cried. And there were tears of absolute joy. And our caseworker was crying, and I started crying. And she said, Mr. Carter, I was so scared when I was told that I was going to have to do this. But I will never be on welfare again because I know I can do it on my own. And Sam, that's the kind of freedom that our system of public supports has to support. lifting people beyond the need for public supports, not simply managing them while they are eligible to receive those supports.
And Clarence, just so you know, right before this hour, I was talking last hour, the Heritage Foundation just released a new policy paper entitled Saving America by Saving the Family, and it highlights this God-ordained marriage idea, this marriage between a man and a woman, and the relationship between that and the stability of families and the safety for people and everything else. Ladies and gentlemen, Clarence H. Carter is with us. And his book is entitled Our Net Has Holes in It. It's a new book he just released. But Donald Trump is taking the Clarence Carter playbook when he says he wants people to go back to work that are on welfare right now. We'll drill into all that coming up in seconds. You're watching Liberty Roundtable Live.
Former Sheriff Richard Mack recounts in his book The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, how he came to realize while working as a beat cop how wrong the all-too-common orientation of police officers is when they think of their job as being to write tickets and arrest people. Richard Mack tells of his personal transformation from by-the-number cop to Constitution-conscious defender of citizen safety and freedoms. Learn what it really means to serve and protect. Purchase your copy at cspoa.org. That's cspoa.org.
Get ready to be part of something incredible. We're breaking barriers and delivering the powerful stories that mainstream media won't touch. Your support is what fuels our mission to revolutionize journalism and bring you the truth. Join our passionate community of changemakers by donating at libertynewsradio.com today. Together, we're creating the future of news.
I believe there will come a time when we are all judged on whether or not we took a stand in defense of all life from the moment of conception until our last natural breath. As a teenager, I gave my first public speech in my church. My hand shook, my heart pounded. I thought to myself, I can't do this, but somehow I did, and because I wanted to talk about things that were important, I persisted. I chided my church as a senior in high school for not seeming to care about the not yet born, for looking the other way, and for not taking a stand on life. I will be in earnest. I will not equivocate, and I will not excuse. I will not retreat an inch, and I will be heard. One thing I promise you, I will always take a stand for life.
Clarence H. Carter is our guest, ladies and gentlemen. He's a nationally recognized human service executive. He's been involved with just about everybody. He wrote an incredible new book. It's out now, available at Amazon and all fine bookstores near you. Our Net Has Holes in It is the title, meaning our social net, right? Our net has holes in it. A critique of the American public safety net, basically saying, hey, you know what? We need to reform this thing. He's got an insider's perspective of 33 plus years on the job. I mean, he knows. He's taking people from welfare to workfare all the time. And even President Trump now, you served in the first Trump administration, but even President Trump now is taking a page out of your out of your work, showing how it can be done, right, Clarence?
Absolutely, Sam. And again, the book title, Our Net Has Holes in It. It begins with a reference from my childhood. My mother took my brothers and I to the Ringling Brothers Marmon Bailey Circus. And we were absolutely fascinated by everything going on in the three rings. You know, the animals doing tricks and the jugglers and the clowns and the men on stilts and that sort. But later in the event, the lights directed our eyes to the top of the arena. And you could see people up there that were almost microscopic in size. They were so far up. And they were doing these amazing feats on a very thin wire and a trapeze and that sort. And while I was very excited, I said to my mom, and I was also a little frightened, I said, Mom, what happens if somebody falls? And she redirected my sight line to a net underneath. And she said, honey, that's called a safety net. And if somebody falls, it will keep them from hurting themselves. Well, literally, almost on cue, one of the performers fell off the high wire, bounced into it several times, steadied himself, and was able to climb back into the performance. And little did I realize at 8 years of age that I had seen a glimpse into my future. But what would
you've also seen a powerful principle taught, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right. And I said, but what would happen if that net had holes in it and didn't break the fall of the performer? And I said, that's the issue with today's public safety net. It has holes in it which allow the individuals who need it to be either trapped in it or fall through it. And so the book is about a critique for what's wrong with the safety net and a vision for transforming it.
All right, we'll get into the transformation in just a second. Eldon, do you want to chime in here, though? This is very serious because it borders on homelessness. It relates to the welfare program. I mean, everything spirals into this. It's a very difficult position because you got the liberals saying, oh, my gosh, aren't you going to care for these people? How hard-hearted are you? Then we say, well, is it government or should it be the private sector? I advocate for free markets and private sector. And then we say, well, it's a Christian responsibility. And then the conservatives come back with this, oh, well, we are compassionate conservatives and all this kind of stuff. But they're skirting around the edges of the fundamental issue. Eldon?
Well, yeah, to me, it illustrates a couple of things. One of the things we need to realize is the nature of government and what government wants most. Government feeds on power and money. So it's pretty dangerous when you put in the hands of government the idea that it should be involved in the industry of charity in any sense, because then there's the natural conflict there where the government is ultimately going to look for more power and money in the way it administers some sort of thing they call charity. Much better if it's put in the hands of, say, churches, and we've fallen away from that. We really have, and we've started to put our faith in the arm of the flesh, in man, in government, rather than in God and His ways of doing things, and rather than tending towards true compassion and true charity, where we voluntarily give of our means and resources to help others. The model has been compulsory and confiscatory, and so it brings up a lot of natural challenges, really, when you go down that route. But historically, the socialists, especially since Bismarck pioneered the way in Germany, to use the social welfare programs as a way, kind of a pretext for gaining great power over the masses, so that they would make it very difficult for people to rise up and rebel against the government because they're so dependent upon them. And that's where, of course, you have the entanglements, or the getting tangled in the net. And there's kind of incentives for government to keep people entangled rather than helping them get out of that.
That's why welfare needs to turn to workfare. Clarence, your insights on what Eldon's saying?
Yes, and I need to go a couple of steps backwards and run and come forward. I lay out in Our Net Has Holes in It the sort of evolution of the American public safety net, and how, as Eldon rightly put it, this used to be the work of the community of faith and the broader community, really until the Great Depression, and the weight got to be too great for the local government and the church and the community. And so government, of course, began to get involved. Okay. And then over the course of time, the size and scope of government has so evolved that it's squeezed out the other sectors of our society from being involved in this work of serving the most vulnerable in our society. And so part of the challenge of transforming our safety net is re-engaging all sectors of our society in this work. You know, I begin after the discussion on the how I first saw the safety net. I talk about the generosity of America, and that this is the most benevolent nation ever known to humankind. America would give one the shirt off its back, okay? And I showcase that in our foreign aid. I showcase that in our charitable giving. I showcase that in our public expenditures for the vulnerable. And so what I say is that it is not that we don't care enough, because we do. It is not that we don't spend enough, because we do. It is that we have ridiculous bureaucratic structures that absorb much of our investments and are not designed for the intention of what our founding fathers set out to do. They set out to create a society in which the greatest degree of freedom could be maintained while protecting for health, safety, and commerce. And so my argument is the safety net ought to operate under that same premise, that we want to create the greatest amount of freedom for the members of our citizenry that find themselves in need. And freedom is not having to come to your government for the most basic of subsistence. So our system of public supports ought to be about freeing individuals to act in their own best interest.
And let me give you an example to make the point, Clarence, to highlight what you're saying. I'm an employer, and as an employer, there's a lot of people that I would like to hire because they're bordering on homelessness. They don't have any skills. The problem is severalfold. One, it's hard for me to hire them in a different state because every state I add to my payroll just increases the costs and the regulations and that massively. It's just hard. Unless you have enough employees to justify it, it's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to hire within our own state. The second problem is since these people don't have skills and they don't have the stability yet, in other words, a proven success, I don't want to hire them on a whim that's going to go south. So I need them to be able to get stable enough. I need them to be able to, and I need to not pay them a minimum wage. Now you say, Sam, come on, how dare you? They're not worth it. They don't have any skills. But if I even paid them $5 an hour or $3 an hour, hey, at least they'd have enough to feed themselves, for crying out loud. And they might have enough for their cell phone. And they might, once they develop some skill sets, I can give them a raise. But see, how do I get people started? The cost is so much, they're not worth it. They don't have any skills. And then the regulatory, I got to pay both sides of, I got to pay FICA, I got to pay this, I got to pay that, I got to pay, insurance for employee, or whatever it's called, workman's comp insurance. It just doesn't end. And so I would love to hire these people, but I got to be able to be free to make sure they're stable. What if I gave them housing and food and said, hey, I'm just going to give you $800 as a base while you do an internship with me? Now they've got everything taken care of and they're learning a skill. But see, I can't even work my way into that because of the point Clarence is making. The bottom line is the book says our net has holes in it. It's available everywhere. Clarence continues in seconds on Liberty RoundTable Live.
Exposing corruption, informing citizens, pursuing liberty. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Attorney General Bondi says a woman who led an anti-ICE demonstration disrupting a Minnesota church service last Sunday has been arrested. The arrest of Nikema Levy-Armstrong was announced on X, where Bondi wrote, "Listen loud and clear. We do not tolerate attacks on places of worship." President Trump has launched his Board of Peace, which will focus initially on the Gaza ceasefire.
The president inaugurated the new group before leaving the World Economic Forum in Davos.
Once this board is completely formed, we can do pretty much whatever we want to do, and we'll do it in conjunction with the United Nations.
Many of America's traditional allies are refusing to join the Board of Peace. A main complaint is the track record of countries who have signed up, including Saudi Arabia, Hungary, and Pakistan. There's also concern about the invitation to Russia's Vladimir Putin to join the board. Greg Clugston, Washington.
And the president says efforts to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict are slowly coming together. Powerful winter storm is fixing to spread snow, ice, and frigid temperatures from Texas to the northeast over the next several days. It highlights the hazards of such storms.
These dangers can include carbon monoxide poisoning, hypothermia, and frozen pipes that can burst and make homes unlivable. Public safety officials and experts say there are multiple ways people can prepare themselves to avoid these hazards and keep themselves safe. The Midwest, the East Coast, as well as much of the southern U.S., including Texas, Georgia, and the Carolinas, are set to experience a winter storm this weekend. That is putting a spotlight on potential dangers. Keith Peters, Washington.
The Fed's preferred gauge of inflation remains stuck just below 3%. Consumer prices rose 2.8% in November from a year earlier. Watching Wall Street, the Dow is up 351 points. NASDAQ ahead 179. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. Now that we're finally into the new year, a lot of us are thinking about taxes, home projects we've been putting off, ways to get ahead financially in 2026. Now's the perfect time to talk to my friends at Fellowship Home Loans. If you want to lower your mortgage payment, they can help you refinance. If you need access to cash for home improvements or to wipe out high-interest debt, their fixed-rate line of credit is one of the best tools out there. Fast approval, predictable rate, and flexibility to use your home's equity wisely. Remember, many people still qualify to skip their next 2 mortgage payments. Imagine starting big projects or paying down debt with 2 months of breathing room. My family and I have used Fellowship personally. I trust these guys. Take control of 2026. Go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/MikeG, 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 or call 800-510-MIKE. That's 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
As a parent, is receiving a faith-based, character-focused education for your children difficult to find? Do you believe that godly principles should be a central component in your child's education? Imagine a school where faith and integrity are at its center, where heritage and responsibility instill character. For over 40 years, American Heritage School has been educating both hearts and minds, bringing out academic excellence. This is the school where character and embracing the providence of a living God are fundamental, where students' national test scores average near the 90th percentile. With American Heritage School's advanced distance education program, distance is no longer an issue. With an accredited LDS-oriented curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade, your children can attend from anywhere in the world. American Heritage School will prepare your child for more than a job. It will prepare them for life. To learn more, visit american-heritage.org. That's american-heritage.org.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
It's all about human services, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we have Clarence H. Carter on with us. He has a book entitled Our Net Has Holes in It. It's a critique of the American public safety net, but he provides solutions, and that's why he's on the radio, because this is Solutions Radio and TV, ladies and gentlemen. He's been around forever, making a huge difference, helping people transfer from welfare to workfare. And I was telling a story about being an employer, and I'd love to help a lot of these people out. I'd love to train them, help them get jobs. They could work from home. They'd learn video editing. They'd learn radio and TV and social media and all kinds of cool things. Sadly, it's too bureaucratic. I can't get it done. Clarence?
And Sam, I could not agree more. As I said in the last segment, that as the size and scope of government has grown, we've squeezed out other sectors of our society from being part of the problem solving. And as you rightly state, you desire as an employer to employ folks to help you meet your bottom line. Now, one of the places where I feel like in government that we have gotten this part wrong is that we think that employers should hire vulnerable individuals and as a part of charity. And it's my argument that that's not the role of the employer. The employer is is attempting to make a benefit, good, or service available, and they need to have individuals that can help them meet their bottom line. And so that's where the role of government should be. How do we help prepare that individual for the jobs that our economy creates?
I could train them for that, and I'd be willing to invest in their training as well. What I need to be able to do, though, is I need to pay for their housing. In other words, where they live, their rent, whatever you want to call it. I need to be able to pay for their food. I need to be able to pay for the internet. And, I need to create a base for them where it's like, hey, you've got everything you need now to succeed. You don't have to worry about shelter. You don't have to worry about clothing because we can take care of that. We don't have to worry about fuel. We can keep you warm and cool. Okay. And food. And if I could get those things in place, I think a lot of these people could be stable enough to really not be stressed and freaking out and worried about, hey, how I don't lose my shopping cart, kind of an idea. But yet I can focus on what I'm hired to do. But yet, see, I can't get that done. I'll get nailed to the wall if I try to create. And I'd love to say, hey, it's an apprenticeship. Here's your base for an apprenticeship. But all the rules prevent me from doing that, right?
Sam, but the truth is, okay, all of those services that you talked about, a desire to provide for that consumer, there are scores and scores of public programs that already provide those things. There are 114 federally authorized.
But I want to take them off all those things. My plan's simple. It's just me, baby.
No. And that would be, and that would absolutely be the objective. But the point is, we'd have to create a system that would allow for a glide path to if you would have folks slope down from dependency as you increase their capacity. I talk about a system that's dedicated to growing capacity to reduce dependency. And right now, again, our system of public supports is not designed in a way to be able to achieve that objective. So what we would want is, we'd want to meet that individual where they are, address those challenges that they have, and then as they would work for you, and you would grow their earning capacity, we could then gradually, if the system were configured right, you could gradually slope down their level of dependency until the day they could say, thanks but no thanks to public supports, because now I've got the baton of my life, and because of my job with Sam, I can run the race of my life on my own. That needs to be the objective.
Is Trump following your direction and moving in that in the way you speak? Because that's really what needs to happen. I agree.
There are elements of it in the president's a policy book, but we haven't seen all of it yet. And Sam, that is what my desperate hope for the book is that it will lay out this vision that and it will create a firestorm of a public discussion about the need to transform our safety net and a way that it can be transformed so that we, at the end of the day, strengthen America by strengthening Americans.
Eldon?
Yeah, that sounds like at least a creative idea or possibly workable idea, right? To transfer us away from the social welfare state altogether. Ultimately, a lot of people, when they say, well, we shouldn't have these, and people agree on principle, but the task of implementing that is very difficult because you don't want to just cut off people, obviously. It would be too much social disruption. So this is, could be a possible workable way. So there's a lot of interesting ideas.
So Clarence Carter, are people starting to take this seriously and take your book? In my opinion, this is something where, and I think this was brought up last hour, that one of the things that we really need to do is educate the people first. And if we educate the people properly, then, hey, we can really make a difference here. The people need to understand.
Well, I don't know, Clarence, if you're on, maybe you want to chime in before hopefully we get Sam back on.
Well, I mean, again, the whole rationale for the book is to be a fire starter. And I really appreciate this opportunity today, Sam, to share with your audience that there are solutions here. And there are solutions, quite frankly, that address all of the different interests. The interest of serving the needs of the vulnerable, but serving those needs from a perspective of solving them. It ought to be our objective at the end of the day for every individual to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. And that's what our safety net ought to lead to. Understanding that for any number of circumstances, there are reasons that some members of our society cannot. But then we have a safety net that should act as, quite frankly, a trampoline and not a hammock, where it catches people from falling, but helps to bounce them back into the performance of life, standing on their own 2 feet. We ought to want individual freedom for as many Americans as possible. And that freedom is a life beyond having to come to your government for the most basic of supports.
We're talking about a hand up, not a handout, is the idea. We're talking about solutions in the private sector across all sectors of society. We're talking about churches leading the way. We're talking about private, nonprofit, philanthropic organizations that can literally double down and make this happen. And we're talking about government playing a role of, hey, you know what? We're in the background. We're not taking the lead, but we will provide that trampoline effect, and we'll use the private sector. When the bounce happens, the private sector steps in and makes sure that the bounce gets you up into the game again, right?
That is exactly right, Sam. I talk about us needing to take a whole of society approach to this issue, and I harken back to a few different. Whenever there is a tragedy or calamity in this society, the American society runs to help. People will bring a shovel or a truck or a sandwich or a dollar or a smile or what have you. It's the American way that when we see tragedy, we move to help. And I believe that in this sector, there is the tragedy of human vulnerability, and we all need to help. This is not simply the job of government, okay? What I do believe is, yes, government is going to have significant expenditures, but government should also rally the rest of our society to bring their truck, bring their shovel, bring their sandwich to solving this problem.
All right, hang tight, Clarence Carter. Our Net Has Holes in It, the name of his book. More in seconds, Liberty Roundtable Live.
Scott Bradley here. Most Americans are painfully aware that the nation is on the wrong track and in dire straits. Unfortunately, most political pundits only nibble around the edges when they claim to address the issues. Even worse, many of the so-called solutions are simply rewarmed servings of what got us into the mess we currently face. And the politicians think we're so gullible and naive that we'll buy their lies that they have reformed and now understand where they led us astray. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that they simply wish to continue to hold power. The solution to America's challenges is found in returning to the timeless principles found in the United States Constitution. My book and lecture series will reawaken in Americans an understanding and love of the principles which made this nation the freest, most prosperous, happiest, and most respected nation on earth. Visit topreservethenation.com and order my book and lectures to begin the restoration of this great nation.
Experience the untamed spirit of the American West with Range Magazine. Each issue is a visual journey featuring award-winning photography and compelling stories that capture the heart of ranching and rural life. Stay informed on the challenges and triumphs of those who live and work on the land. Subscribe today and receive quarterly editions delivered to your doorstep, and join a community that cherishes the enduring legacy of the Western frontier. Visit rangemagazine.com to subscribe.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At cspoa.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
All right, Clarence Carter's with us. We're talking about his incredible book, Our Net Has Holes in It. There are ways to change the game to make a difference, everybody. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. You know, Kirby Hayborn does a thing called Making Good. It's a TV show where he highlights a lot of these philanthropy efforts and people making a real effort to help out in these realms. There's also a group called Operation BBQ, or Operation Barbecue Relief. It's not really just a restaurant, folks. It's actually a nonprofit disaster relief BBQ effort that shows up after natural disasters and crises, and they provide free barbecue meals to affected families, emergency workers, and communities in need. Operation BBQ Relief is what it's called. It's a nonprofit group started by pitmasters to serve hot meals after disasters. Tornadoes, floods, hurricanes, and freezes. By the way, one's coming up this weekend, folks, and I pray it's not as bad as they're predicting, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. But Clarence, is this going to be hard to do? Is it a complicated process, or is it really simple?
No, Sam. It's not. It's not simple. It is a. Yes, it is a complex and complicated issue, and let me just give you a little piece of that, okay? As I had mentioned, there are currently 114 means-tested programs authorized by the federal government, and that means these are programs that were designed specifically to serve individuals that are economically, socially, or developmentally vulnerable in some way. So there's 114 of them. They are authorized. Now, let me confuse this a little bit more. Those programs are authorized by 31 different committees of the legislature.
And that's on the general level or in a given state or both?
No, that's the federal level. At the federal level,
okay.
31 different committees of jurisdiction. And then those programs are administered by 12 separate agencies of the federal government. And so each one of those committees of jurisdiction essentially makes their own rules for those 114 programs, and then those 12 agencies add the policy and regulation to administer those programs. So those programs are completely disconnected. They operate in silos. There's a massive administrative burden for administering all of these things. So the idea of making this make more sense is simple, but the devil is massively in the details. But
your
again,
book
we
is
lay
an
out
incredible
a prescription
primer.
for it.
Your book
Yes.
is a primer, though, to help us understand the problem and provide solutions. And if I can make it really simple, here's what we need. We need Operation Get the Heck Out the Way, don't we, sir?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, I believe that this is very doable. But again, it's going to take all of us. One of the things that I think is really important, and the reason that your audience is so important in this, is that we have to call on, if you would, the safety net industrial complex. We have to demand it change. Now, it's not going to change on its own because it lives off of the way that it's designed. But I think that if the much broader American population says that you are not honoring, this system is not honoring our desire to help the vulnerable. You are not expending our dollars in a way that makes sense, and we demand that you do this differently. There's a whole lot more of us outside of the system than there is inside of it. And so we have to call on that system to change, and then we have a prescription to be able to make that change.
Eldon, it's very complex in the details, but it's very simple in its practice. We need to get the churches in the lead and government out of the way, and we need to defund most of these government programs that are conflicting and convoluted, and you don't know who's who, and they're acting in silos. And we need to really kind of streamline this and say, hey, first it's family. Secondly, it's the community, volunteers, churches, etc. Third, it's local government. And then, hey, the general government can sit way back there and say, you know what, we'll make sure there's no holes in the safety net. What do you think of that plan, Eldon?
Yeah, well, you pointed out some of the difficulties, costs, you might say, of putting this responsibility on the government. You have massive bureaucracy. That's kind of the nature of government. And so helping people understand that it's really in their best interests to go back to trusting God rather than the arm of the flesh or government to carry out charity. That's really God's model, and there's advantages for people to going back to that. Even if they might say, well, gee, I'm not such a religious type person. Well, actually, maybe you can accept a little bit of religion if you can avoid at least some of this bureaucracy or corruption.
Well, and even if you accept that the religion says love your God and love your neighbor as yourself, that's kind of where it starts, and everybody should accept that, right, Clarence?
Yeah,
absolutely. And Sam, if I could add one more piece of this, okay? We believe that the family is the most important unit in this society, okay? In this or any other society. And quite frankly, government has gone a long way in breaking down the family. There was a time in the not too distant past where government said there could not be a man in the household in order for the family to receive a public benefit.
Yeah.
And so one of the things
boyfriend, you're going to have to live on somebody else's couch and couch surf, and that'll fix it, right?
That's right. And so one of the things that we have done, particularly in Tennessee, is we started a fatherhood initiative from the perspective of fathers are not a nice thing to have. They're not a luxury. They are essential to a healthy family, to a healthy community, to a healthy society. And we are now going to begin to build on the fatherhood work we've done by adding a whole family component to our work. Because if we don't restore the family, we knew that we had to go upstream and not just deal with the delivery of benefits, goods, and services. But if we don't go upstream to the root of the problem, and it is the breakdown of the American family, we are never going to be able to solve this complex problem.
Amen. That's why family is the fundamental unit of society, always has been, always will be. And society really mirrors the reality of the family. If the family is strong, society will be so. If the family is melting down, society as a, mirror will respond and deal with that. Clarence, I want to ask you this question. As you wrote this book, you've been in this for 33 plus years. As you wrote this book and you research and you discover and you put together not only a highlight of the problem, Our Net Has Holes in It, the name of the book, get it at Amazon and all fine bookstores, but then you provide solutions. Was there anything that surprised you or that you discovered that you didn't know in all your work as you kind of dug into this for solutions to where you're like, wow, there's some simple keys here?
I would say that I think the one surprise is that, and this isn't a surprise, it's an understanding over time. It is that no one outside of this system understands it. There's simply a collective understanding that it doesn't work. And so the whole idea is to shine a light on this, to shine a light in a way that I want to let our country know that although we invest mightily, we are not living up to our own stated desire.
And God-given potential, right?
Exactly. Exactly. But there is a way that we can do that. And most importantly, Sam, we don't have to spend another dollar to do it. We don't have to create another program. It's interesting. You talked about the barbecue program. That's not a government thing. Okay, that's a private. It's a private sector.
And the amount of meals they create and show up Johnny on the spot is incredible.
It's absolutely incredible. And there are scores and scores and scores of programs like that all across this nation. We need to leverage and align them in the shared purpose of strengthening America by strengthening Americans.
Our Net Has Holes in It. It's the name of the book, available at all fine bookstores. Get involved, learn about it. People outside the system don't understand it. We know it doesn't work, but we need to understand it, and we need to change it. And the way we change it is bottom up, by we the people demanding change, and then by we the people putting our money where our mouth is, or putting what we're claiming into practice. Clarence H. Carter, our guest. His book, Our Net Has Holes in It. Clarence, we'll have you back, my friend. Eldon Stahl, thank you so much. John Birch Society, jbs.org, thenewamerican.com. I'm Sam Bushman. We're syndicated by the Loving Liberty Network, lovingliberty.net. God save the Republic of the United States of America.